Creatives are a lot like Hannah Montana. I want to uncover a few little untold secrets to make this creative journey work for you, because all of our paths are different, but I think they are all so beautiful. Let's get right into it. The first part of this is embrace your inner Hannah Montana. I have really struggled with this idea that I have more than one life, and most artists I think have more than one life. We have to do something to make a living, at least at first, and it's not necessarily something that's super sexy. You're like a server, a cook, or work in marketing. And so this whole idea of living this double life, I think the first part of it is really having a lot of humility. We do need to earn our way to this lifestyle. For most of us, it's not given to us unless we have parents who are already in this lifestyle and can drop us in it. But for the majority of us, we're gonna have to work a little bit in order to earn it. This regular life that isn't super exciting, but it's something that we really have to do. I would call them Miley Stewart. There's Miley Stewart and there's Hannah Montana. That life would be the Miley Stewart. She wanted to go to school, she wanted to make friends, she wanted to have a normal life. And for us, we want to not be starving. We want to be able to make money. So that's why we have this kind of Miley Stewart career. I want you to think about what this could be for you. And this is something that I've talked about in other videos before, is finding your ikigai, which is a Japanese term, about aligning what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what makes money. So before anything, maybe start thinking about what your Miley Stewart would be. What would this job be? What are you already really good at that you could start making money with? For me, for a little bit, it was being with kids and working with kids. So I worked online as an ESL teacher to kids in China, and I was also a substitute teacher. And then in 2020, I started teaching myself digital marketing, and that gave me an opportunity to do more things virtually. There was a little bit more scalability in that too. I couldn't work 2 substitute jobs at once. So there was a very limited cap to what I could make. And teaching English to kids in China, that same thing. There was a time limit. All that to say, I needed to find a Miley Stewart for myself that was a little bit more sustainable and scalable again. And that's part of this too, is this idea that we're creating this possibly not sexy, but very necessary part of our creative lives that is giving us the opportunity to scale, maybe even outsource some of this work so you could focus on your creativity. We talked a lot about this Miley Stewart life. Now, again, I want you to think about what this is for you. What is your Miley Stewart job? What is this job that isn't necessarily pop star, crazy, fun, exciting, but it brings in the bills? And bonus, it could scale and end up helping you make a lot of money while you're pursuing your music. Think about what other skills that you have as a creative that you could eventually turn into some sort of business. My cats are, hold on, gotta break up a fight. You're scaling this life. You are finding something that is not sexy, not super exciting, but sexy in the fact that it is making you money consistently. I'll tell you the timeline really quick. I was a substitute teacher. I was teaching English to kids in China online, virtually. Then during 2020, I started leaning into digital marketing, which is something that I encourage a lot of creatives to get into because it is something that we are naturally good at. People are looking for people to be creative for them. The amount of people I've met who don't want to touch social media, don't know how to write blogs, don't know how to edit YouTube videos, anything like that, and we're great at that. I was a social media manager, I worked in a few agencies, and eventually I became an SEO specialist and was able to make a lot more money that way because there's not that many people who do that. All of this was pulling from my natural creative talents of I was good with kids for a little bit, hopefully I still am. Then I transitioned into this digital creative element. We talked about the Miley Stewart life, right? So now let's talk about the Hannah Montana life. This is the life that we all aspire to have. We want to have that sexy pop star life, not in the literal sense, but whatever we want to be doing with our creativity, we want that to be our full-time career. Now, there is also something in the Hannah Montana brand that I actually find very similar to the way that I've at least approached being a full-time creative, and that is being a little bit quiet about it at first. Not necessarily hiding the fact that you want to do this full-time, but keeping it sacred. Obviously, the whole plotline was about her not showing that she has this double life. I find that when I'm starting something new and I'm putting so much pressure to post on social media, hey, I'm gonna release music soon, work on music, there was so much pressure to then deliver on that promise when I was still figuring out what our cadence would be. I was still figuring out what even type of music I wanted to write. I encourage you to treat this Hannah Montana career, if you will, as something that is sacred to you. Giving yourself the space to just let it flow for a little bit without putting it all over social media, without telling your friends or family too much in depth if you're not comfortable. Like, I think that's totally okay. And I think a lot of people do say, if you start something new, you should tell everyone. And yes, I think there is a point where you do tell people, but I think at the beginning it needs to be cared for because you are still discovering this for yourself. You're still figuring out how you can balance this. You're still figuring out what you want your vibe to be, your genre, your brand, your feel, and you want that time and space without feeling like you have a deadline or you owe it to people to explain who you are. That is not something that's super beneficial to most creatives, I've found. This gives you the time to experiment, and experimentation is so important. We are alchemists. We create things from nothing. But we do that from experimenting and trying a lot of different things. And if we start putting the pressure on ourselves to over-explain our process to other people or tell people we're releasing music and when are you doing it, and we're feeling pressure from other people now that all eyes are on us, it's just gonna make it feel like it's too overwhelming. It might make you feel like you are under a lot of pressure for no reason and from people who don't need to be putting pressure on you. This whole concept of living this Hannah Montana life, you got like the Miley Stewart career concept that is scaling your business. That is not super exciting, but it is a pathway to do something exciting. And then there's that Hannah Montana, that very sacred experience and process of not only releasing art, but like figuring out what art you even want to be doing, what you want this life to look like. If you're starting an Etsy shop, if you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to release music, if you want to start auditioning, dare yourself to just do it. And that'll also force you to see what it's like to just do something without having to tell the world about it. I'm sure we all see people on social media who maybe feel like they do things for other people. Dare yourself to not talk about everything that's going on. Dare yourself to have a little bit of mystery behind your life. You also need to remember too that the people who you idolize, the people that we see at the top, I want their lives, very likely at some point were living their own Miley Stewart life. They were working in a pizza shop, or they were working as a receptionist, or as a delivery driver, or as a waitress, or a million other things that we don't see because they didn't talk about it because they wanted to pursue the Hannah Montana. Next up is we want to switch the narrative from being starving for work to finding mini creative bites, mini snacks of creativity. Now, I think as a whole, it's very easy to condense our lives into, I don't perform as much as I want to, or I don't make art as much as I want to. I'm guilty of this myself. I spend all this time working this corporate job or working my other job, and I don't have any time for my art. That's probably very true. That's probably a very likely reality that's going on. This is something that my voice teacher, Molly Dunn, would always tell me. She is, one of my favorite people ever. And I worked with her for years in middle and high school, a little bit throughout college. She is literally the reason why I have the voice I do, and I'm so grateful for her. I go to auditions and I tell her about how they went, and I remember her always saying, this is your opportunity, like every chance you have to perform, savor that. Savor every single chance you have to perform, even if it's you auditioning, even if it's you practicing, even if it's recording a video and sharing it online. We live for performing, whether that's to your phone or whether that's to an audition room. Just the sheer fact that you had the opportunity to sing that day for one other person is so cool. And I really held tight to that. I was on tour for a little bit with one of our friends, and he was so sweet in giving me the opportunity to open for a few of his shows with about 5 of our original songs. And every night I was just so smitten. I was like tickled pink that I got to perform my original music for just someone different. I got to share my music in Washington, D.C. I got to share it in Atlanta. I got to share it in Nashville. Even hanging out with them during this tour. They've been on the road for, 30 years. They've been doing this for so long, and something that I just absolutely loved about the band was there was no sense of them being like jaded. They've been to all these places probably hundreds of times, but every time they just come and walk around the town and just bask. Lila, do you want to jump? Come here with me. They just basked in this idea that they just get to perform for someone. This is amazing. There was no sense of I'm so bored, I don't want to do this. Going back to this whole thing, like, we are not always 100% of the time going to have a full meal, if you will. We're not going to be able to perform for 3 straight hours or create art all day, every single day, or however many days a week you want to be doing it. At least not yet. So in this time when you're still looking forward to that Hannah Montana lifestyle, instead of having this like pressure of having this whole meal of I haven't performed a show in so long, or I haven't done this in so long, think about the times that you have done that. Like, thinking back, for me, I was able to perform a few times and open for them. I'm thinking to yesterday when we recorded a demo. I'm thinking of a few days ago when we recorded a demo for another song in the studio. I'm thinking about in a month when I'm going to be able to sing a few songs on stage for a showcase. I would itch for a little bit more, but I'm also just so grateful for these little nuggets, these little bites of being creative. I really implore you to hold on to that as much as possible, because what's going to happen is once you do reach this Hannah Montana lifestyle, there is going to be another goal that you want, right? It's going to be like, okay, now I can do my art full time, but now I want to tour it, or now I want to do art shows, or now I want to do something else. The target's always going to be moving. So if you don't get into the muscle memory now of being grateful for all of the little bites and just cherishing everything as if it's the first and last time, you're gonna become jaded really quickly. It really is the idea of treating everything like it's your last, but not in the sense that you'll never do it again, but in the sense that, how can I just enjoy this? Like, how can I just remember that this is exactly what I love to do? Think back, when was the last time, you might not be able to think of, oh, I've never been able to do this, or it's been 5 years since I did this, but think back the last month, or the last year, or the last week. Like, what were some little bites? What were some little snacks that you were doing your thing, you were in your element, and really cherish that, because that is a beautiful thing. There are so many people in this world who never ever pursue what they want to be doing. They put pressure on themselves that they need to find a job that they feel okay about, and never really pursue what they want. And they always have that thought in their minds. Maybe you know someone like this who's, oh yeah, I always wanted to do that, but this was just more practical. So celebrate just the fact that you are doing what you love, you're pursuing what you love. That in and of itself is a celebration all on its own. Don't put all this pressure on, when was the last time I had a full meal? It might be a while. Find these little glimmering moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do that. That's so cool. The next part of this, let your path unfold and pioneer itself. What I mean by this is that when I was in college, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, listening to interviews with people doing what I wanted to be doing, with actors and singers, and I felt like I had to follow their lifestyle to a T and be really rigid with it. And what I realized was that we are all pioneering our own path. We can draw inspiration from what other people are doing. I talk a lot about working in digital marketing, how that's helped me as an artist kind of build up something that helps me survive. But my experience is going to be a lot different from yours, because you have so many unique life experiences that I don't have. I find that in those really early times when you're still figuring this out, like you might be listening to this, you might be working a full-time job and you want to transition this, it's going to take a little bit for you to really explore what you want to do. Or you might be in college right now and you might be trying to figure out what's my next step. It's okay to take a little bit of time to just experiment a little bit. Your path is going to carve itself. I always love the phrase in like self-development, as long as you know why you want to do this and that's serving something greater than yourself, then the what is going to figure itself out. It's going to be so unique to you. Your paths are all going to look different, and that's okay. I place a lot of pressure on myself to have this very rigid path, and even like going to theater school, there was this path of you're going to go to a BFA program, graduate after 4 years, move to New York City, work as a waitress, audition until you get something. And then I guess just do that again. But it's so much more fluid than that. There's so much experimentation and exploration of yourself and like what you value, and whether you're an introvert or extrovert. That alone is going to tell you what you might want your Miley Stewart career to be, or your digital marketing jobs while you're building your creative path. Like, that is going to be so different from other people, and it should be unique. Obviously, drawing inspiration from other people's stories is really great, but I really implore you to just leave this up a little bit to a higher power. And I know it sounds floaty, and there's some people who don't believe in anything spiritual. Leaving it up to something outside of yourself. The moment where we feel like we have more control over our lives than we do is when we start just sabotaging ourselves. We start putting all this unnecessary pressure on ourselves, and it just takes away from the beauty of the art. There needs to be the shared understanding. You are letting this path unfold. Obviously, you are walking. You are taking the steps, right? But there is something that's placing all of the beautiful elements and telling you where to go. It might be showing that this path is a little bit stormy and this part's a little sunnier. Like, there's gonna be moments in your life that's just going to show you, like, I don't feel like this aligns, or I think this is what I need. We are all coming together through even this YouTube channel. There's already this community here that's coming together, but there's also something too that's might not be seen, that's really more felt. If you just open your mind to that idea, think about what makes you feel at peace, and start seeing how you can implement a little bit more of that into your life, because that will help you be more in tune to it. For me, it's going to get massages, going to the spa, going to go on walks, yoga, acupuncture that just forced me to like step away from my phone and slow down. It's those moments that help me then throughout the day check myself and say, I think I have to change this about what I'm doing, or something's telling me that I need to say this, or something's telling me I really need to focus a little bit more on this. It's something I can't really explain much past that, but I want you to think about it. Just remember that you're not alone. Even if it's just remembering that I'm talking to a camera right now. Right now, I'm talking to nobody because I'm talking to a camera. But as you're watching this, I already know that there's something out there that's watching this right now. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just know that there are so many energies working for you. The universe wants it to happen. It just does. It just does. If you want a little bit more of a strategic approach to how to become a full-time artist, I definitely encourage you to click the link above to watch that video. If you enjoy this, please hit subscribe. I would love to see you around, and I will see you next time. Bye.